My wife sent me a care package overseas containing a DNA test and a note. Don't come back. He's not yours, and neither is the house. I opened the care package from my wife with a smile on my face. 3 months into my deployment in Kuwait, any reminder of home felt like Christmas morning. Reggie sat across from me in the barracks, tearing into his own package from his parents. My smile faded as I pulled out a small white box with DNA paternity test printed on the side. A handwritten note fell onto my lap. I unfolded it with trembling fingers. Marcus, I know the truth now. Dylan isn't yours. The house was bought with money you stole. Don't bother coming home. We'll be gone by the time you read this. I stared at the note for 10 minutes. Reggie noticed something was wrong and came over to my bunk. You look like you've seen a ghost, man, he said. I handed him the note without a word. I went straight to Captain Cole's office. He took one look at my face and cleared the room. I need to call my wife, I told him. Cole nodded and let me use his secure line. Kendra's cell went straight to voicemail. I tried our home phone next. It was disconnected. Panic clawed at my chest. I called my brother Jake, who lived 20 minutes from our house. I'll go check right now, Jake promised. He called me back an hour later. Marcus, the house is completely empty. No furniture. No cars. Nothing. The neighbors said they saw movers about 2 weeks ago. They haven't seen Kendra or Dylan since. Cole approved my emergency leave immediately. I was on a transport plane home within 24 hours. The first thing I did when I landed was check our joint bank account. It had been drained 3 weeks earlier. The bank manager, Wesley, pulled up our account history. There were transactions I never made, at stores I'd never visited. Someone took a cash advance of $15,000 using your PIN, Wesley said. He showed me a withdrawal slip with my signature perfectly forged at the bottom. I drove to our house. A strange car sat in the driveway. A woman I'd never seen before answered the door. Can I help you? She asked. I explained that this was my house. We bought this place 2 months ago, she said, looking confused. The sale was completely legal. I have all the paperwork. I went to the DMV next. The clerk looked at my military ID with suspicion. You just renewed your license last month, she said. She pulled up the record on her computer and turned the screen toward me. The photo wasn't me. It was someone who looked similar, but definitely not me. I requested a copy of my credit report. It showed dozens of new accounts opened in my name over the last 4 months. Credit cards, loans, even a new car. The DNA test results arrived by email while I sat in my hotel room. The test claimed Dylan wasn't my biological son. I found Kendra's sister Mallory through Facebook. She agreed to meet me at a coffee shop. I don't understand, she said when I showed her the note. Kendra told everyone you abandoned them for your deployment, that you stole money and disappeared. My heart sank. Mallory, I've been deployed in Kuwait for 3 months. I've sent money home every month. I've video called whenever I could. Mallory looked uncomfortable. Kendra's been living in Phoenix with her new boyfriend. His name is Marcus too, actually. I drove to Phoenix that night. At 6 p.m., I parked across from the address Mallory had given me. My stomach dropped as I watched Kendra walk up to the apartment building. Dylan held her hand, laughing at something she said. A man followed behind them, carrying groceries. He wore my face. Not exactly my face, but close enough. Similar build, similar haircut. He even walked with the same slight limp I'd had since basic training. I watched this stranger kiss my wife. I watched my son call him daddy. Someone had stolen my identity while I was deployed. Someone was living my life. I found Mallory waiting at the coffee shop the next morning. She looked nervous, constantly checking her phone. I talked to Kendra last night, she said. She thinks you abandoned them. She said you stopped calling, stopped sending money, and told her you weren't coming back from Kuwait. My blood ran cold. That's impossible. I've video called whenever I could. I've sent money every month. Mallory showed me photos on her phone. Kendra and Dylan smiling with the imposter at a park. The man had his arm around my wife like he belonged there. She said you two had a huge fight over video call 3 months ago. You told her you met someone else in Kuwait and weren't coming home. I slammed my fist on the table. That never happened. I've been deployed, following orders, sending money home. Someone is pretending to be me. Mallory believed me. The timeline didn't make sense otherwise. This new Marcus showed up about a week after you supposedly had that fight. Kendra said he was an old friend who helped her through the abandonment. I hired a private investigator named Desmond that afternoon. He had 20 years of experience with identity theft cases. This is sophisticated, Desmond said after reviewing everything. We need to move fast. Desmond discovered forged power of attorney documents 2 days later. My signature had been perfectly copied, notarized, and filed with the county clerk. This gave him complete control over your finances, your property, everything, Desmond explained. The forgery is excellent, professional grade. I confronted the mortgage company with my military ID and deployment papers. The manager pulled up the sale documents on his computer. I'm sorry, but everything appears to be in order. The power of attorney is legitimate as far as we can tell. He showed me the closing documents. The imposter had signed my name flawlessly. I met with a lawyer named Blake the next day. He specialized in identity theft cases and had represented military personnel for 15 years. This is one of the worst cases I've ever seen, Blake said after reviewing my documents. We need to file police reports immediately. Blake helped me file identity theft reports with every relevant authority: the FBI, local police, credit bureaus, and military investigative services. Detective Talia Johnson was assigned to my case. She had handled dozens of identity theft cases over her career. Your deployment created the perfect opportunity, she explained. The thief had months to establish himself without fear of you showing up. Wesley from the bank called with more bad news. All the fraudulent transactions came from your home IP address. He was living in your house, using your internet. Desmond sent me photos of Kendra and the imposter living their daily life. They shopped for groceries together. They took Dylan to school. They looked like a normal, happy family. He's completely assumed your identity, Desmond said. He's even attending parent-teacher conferences as you. I interviewed my neighbor Eliza, who had lived next door for 5 years. She'd always collected our mail when we were away. I thought it was you, she admitted. He looked so similar, and he knew details about our conversations that only you would know. Detective Talia called me with a breakthrough 3 days later. We've identified him. His name is Parker Smith. She sent me his criminal record. Parker had a history of elaborate identity theft schemes going back 12 years. He targets deployed military personnel specifically, Talia explained. He's done this to 3 other families, gets close to the wife, assumes the husband's identity, drains their accounts, and disappears. The pattern was always the same. He'd research his targets thoroughly, learning personal details from social media. He'd approach the wives, claiming to be an old friend of their husband. Blake helped me develop a strategy to confront Kendra and Parker. We needed solid evidence and police backup. We need to be careful, Blake warned. He's convinced your wife that you're the imposter now. This won't be easy. I stared at the photos of Parker with my family. He was sleeping in my bed. He was hugging my son. He was kissing my wife. I'm ready, I told Blake. Let's take this bastard down. I parked across from their apartment building in Phoenix at dawn. Desmond sat in the passenger seat with his camera ready. We needed to document everything. They follow the same routine every day, Desmond said. Parker leaves at 7:30 a.m. to go to work. Kendra takes Dylan to school at 8:15. We watched the building for 3 days. Parker wore my clothes, drove a car bought with my money, and lived my life. The rage I felt was indescribable. Desmond gathered evidence of Parker's previous identity thefts. He targeted 4 other military families in the past decade. He's meticulous, Desmond explained. He studies his targets for months before making contact. Social media is his research tool. Detective Talia confirmed Parker had been released from prison 2 years ago. He'd served time for identity theft and fraud against a Marine deployed in Afghanistan. Blake helped me secure a court order to search the apartment. Talia arranged for police backup to be ready when we made our move. We'll confront them when Kendra returns with Dylan, Blake said. Parker will be at work then. The moment came on Thursday afternoon. I watched Kendra's car pull into the parking lot. Dylan jumped out, backpack bouncing as he ran toward the building. My heart ached seeing my son. He'd grown taller in the months I'd been gone. I approached them as they reached the building entrance. Kendra, I called. She turned, confused at first. Then her eyes widened in shock. She grabbed Dylan and pulled him behind her. What are you doing here? She demanded. You said you were never coming back. I kept my distance, hands visible. Kendra, you've been lied to. I never said that. I've been deployed in Kuwait for the past 3 months. Dylan peeked around her leg. He didn't recognize me. The pain was worse than any physical wound I'd ever experienced. That's not true, Kendra said, voice shaking. You called me. You told me you found someone else. You emptied our accounts. I slowly pulled out my military ID and deployment papers. That wasn't me, Kendra. Someone has been impersonating me. Talia approached with 2 uniformed officers. She showed Kendra her badge. Mrs. Coleman, I'm Detective Johnson. We have evidence that a man named Parker Smith has been impersonating your husband. Confusion crossed Kendra's face. What are you talking about? Marcus has been here with us. The apartment building door opened. Parker stepped out, freezing when he saw me. For 1 second, pure panic flashed across his face. Then he composed himself and smiled. What's going on here, babe? He asked Kendra. Talia stepped forward. Parker Smith, we have a warrant for your arrest for identity theft, fraud, and forgery. Parker bolted. Pure instinct took over. I chased him through the parking lot and tackled him between 2 parked cars. You stole my life, I growled as I pinned him down. The officers were there in seconds, handcuffing him. Kendra stood frozen, clutching Dylan's shoulders. Her face drained of color as reality crashed down on her. Talia showed her the evidence. Photos of Parker's previous victims, his criminal record, the forged documents. He's done this before, Talia explained gently. He targets military families while the service member is deployed. Kendra collapsed onto a nearby bench. But he knew everything about us. He knew how Marcus and I met. He knew our inside jokes. Social media, I said. Our entire relationship was documented online. All our photos, our stories, everything. The officers searched the apartment. They found a box containing my personal documents, my birth certificate, social security card, military records, all stolen from our home. Parker's laptop revealed evidence of his other identity thefts. He had files on 3 other military families he was researching for future targets. Dylan watched everything with wide, confused eyes. Mommy, why are the police taking Daddy away? Kendra broke down completely. That's not your daddy, Dylan. This is your real daddy. She pointed at me, but Dylan shook his head. No, he's not. Daddy has the scar on his hand from when he cut it, fixing my bike. My blood ran cold. I had no such scar. Parker had created false memories with my son. Talia led Parker to the police car. He smirked at me over his shoulder. They loved me more than they ever loved you, he taunted. I showed Kendra proof of my deployment. My emails to her that went unanswered. The money transfers that were redirected. The video calls I'd tried to make that were blocked. He intercepted everything, I explained. He made you think I abandoned you. Kendra stared at the evidence with horror. He said you stole money, that you had gambling debts, that you wanted to start a new life without us. Dylan watched his mother sob uncontrollably. He looked at me with suspicion and fear. You're not my daddy, he insisted. My daddy knows my favorite dinosaur is a T-Rex. Triceratops, I corrected gently. You've always loved Triceratops because they have 3 horns, and you were 3 when you first saw one at the museum. Recognition flickered briefly in his eyes. Then confusion returned. Parker studied everything about us, I explained to Kendra. He became me in every way he could. Kendra looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. How could I not have known? How could I have been so stupid? You weren't stupid, Talia said. He's a professional con man. This is what he does. I watched my family, strangers to me now, trying to process the unimaginable truth. The man they loved was a fiction. The life they'd been living was built on lies. And I was the stranger who had come to tear it all down. Parker's trial began 3 months after his arrest. I sat in the courtroom watching him plead not guilty despite the mountain of evidence against him. He's trying to delay the inevitable, Blake explained. Blake had 20 years of experience with identity theft cases and had seen this tactic before. The prosecutor presented document after document showing Parker's elaborate scheme: bank statements, forged signatures, fake IDs. The evidence was overwhelming. Kendra testified about how Parker had convinced her I'd abandoned our family. She broke down on the stand describing his manipulation. He showed me emails that looked like they came from Marcus, she said through tears. He had screenshots of video calls where Marcus supposedly told me he wasn't coming home. The jury took less than 2 hours to find Parker guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 15 years in prison. This was a sophisticated scheme targeting a military family during deployment, the judge said. The court finds this particularly reprehensible. While the legal system dealt with Parker, I worked with Blake to reclaim my identity. We spent weeks contacting credit bureaus, banks, and government agencies. This is going to take time, Blake warned me. Identity recovery doesn't happen overnight. The house was the most complicated issue. The new owners had purchased it legally, even if the sale was based on fraud. Blake filed a lawsuit against the title company and mortgage lender. After 6 months of legal battles, the court ruled in my favor. The sale is nullified, Blake told me. The title company has to compensate the buyers, but the house is yours again. Financial institutions gradually restored my credit and accounts. Wesley at the bank personally oversaw the recovery of nearly $50,000 that Parker had stolen. We've implemented new verification protocols for military personnel, Wesley explained. Your case exposed serious vulnerabilities in our system. Rebuilding my relationship with Dylan was the hardest part. He didn't remember me and still asked for the other daddy during our first supervised visits. Children are resilient but confused by this situation, the family therapist told us. Be patient and consistent. I brought old family photos to our visits. I reminded Dylan of the camping trip we took when he was 4, the Halloween when he dressed as a dinosaur, the bedtime stories I used to tell him. Remember Mr. Wiggles? I asked him, showing him his old stuffed penguin that I'd kept in my deployment bag. Recognition flickered in his eyes. You used to make him talk in a funny voice, Dylan said quietly. It was our first real breakthrough. Kendra started therapy to process Parker's manipulation. The therapist specialized in victims of psychological abuse. He targeted me because Marcus was deployed, Kendra explained during one of our joint sessions. He approached me at the grocery store, claiming to be an old friend of yours from high school. Parker had studied our social media accounts for months before approaching her. He knew details about our relationship that seemed impossible for a stranger to know. He showed me fake news articles about soldiers stealing money before deployment, she continued. When our bank account showed unusual transactions, he convinced me you were responsible. We moved back into our house after the court case was settled. Dylan was hesitant at first, but soon found comfort in his old bedroom. The toys remember me, he told me one night as I tucked him in. I felt hope for the first time in months. Captain Cole arranged for me to finish my deployment with a stateside assignment. He ensured the military provided support for our family's recovery. What happened to you could happen to any deployed soldier, Cole said. We're implementing new identity protection measures because of your case. The DNA test that started everything turned out to be falsified. Brianna from the testing lab confirmed Parker had manipulated the results. He accessed your account and uploaded fake data, she explained. The original samples were never actually processed. I was asked to speak at a military conference about identity theft protection. Hundreds of service members attended to learn from my experience. Protect your personal information, I warned them. Limit what you share on social media. Set up verification protocols with your family before deployment. Kendra and I attended marriage counseling twice a week. Trust didn't return quickly, but we were committed to rebuilding. I should have known it wasn't you, she said during one session. There were little things that felt off, but he always had explanations. Dylan's 8th birthday came 6 months after we moved back home. We invited family and a few of his friends from school. Make a wish, I told him as he blew out the candles. He looked at Kendra and me standing together and smiled. I already got it, he said. In that moment, I felt our family healing. I started a foundation to help military families affected by identity theft. We provided resources, legal assistance, and counseling to victims. Your story saved us, one Army wife told me at a foundation event. My husband's identity was being stolen, but we recognized the signs because of you. The military implemented new identity verification protocols for deployed personnel. Families now had secure communication channels that couldn't be intercepted. Coleman's Law was proposed in Congress to increase penalties for those who steal the identities of deployed service members. I testified before a Senate committee about our experience. While I was serving my country, a criminal was destroying my family, I told them. No military family should ever face this nightmare alone. 1 year after Parker's arrest, Dylan came into our bedroom in the middle of the night. He crawled between Kendra and me like he used to do before my deployment. I remember now. he whispered. I remember you're my real dad. I held my son close, feeling the weight of everything we'd lost and everything we'd fought to regain. Some wounds would never fully heal, but we were family again. That was worth fighting for.